All right, so today we're discussing Chapter 4, Lesson 4, the slope formula. The objective for today is to find the slope by using the slope formula. Okay, so in lesson, this is supposed to say 4.3. In lesson 4.3, slope was described as the constant rate of change. Remember, it wasn't just the rate of change. That rate of change had to be constant, which means it has to be the same, okay? So the slope was described as the constant rate of change. And then you saw how to find the slope of a line by using its graph, right? We could do, what was that? The slope was the, do you remember? The slope, when we were looking at a graph, was the rise over the run, or it was the same thing as the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so there is also a formula you can use to find the slope of a line, which is usually represented by the letter m. So that's really super important. Moving forward, when we talk about the slope, we're going to be using the letter m. M means the same thing as the slope. So to use this formula, which is called the slope formula, you need the coordinates of two different points on a line. And so we're going to talk about the slope formula. Okay, now this is really super little, but hopefully you can read it. So the slope formula, in words, the slope of a line is the ratio. Okay, so there we have it again. So the slope of a line is, slope of a line, we're going to use m. So m is the ratio, so it means we're going to be dealing with a fraction of the difference in the y values. So we really need 2 points. So our points are going to be x1 and y1, and then x2 and y2 here. And we just use these are subscript. And that's just to say, hey, this is the first point, and these little 2's are just to be like, hey, this is the second point. And so, okay, we have the slope of a line. Okay, so m is the ratio. Is means equals. Ratio has a fraction of the difference of the y values. So we're looking at the difference of the y values, right? That's that change in the y values. And that's right here. See, the y values are y1 and y2. And so when we're looking at the change, we're really talking about the difference. So we're just subtracting y2 minus y1. y2 minus y1. And then it uses this word 2. So far we have the slope of a line, that's m. Is means equals. The ratio means we have a fraction. It's about to tell us what goes on the top of the fraction. The difference of the y values. So our y values are y2 and y1. We've taken the difference of those two, y2 minus y1. 2, the difference in the x values. So we're looking at these x values, x1 and x2, and we're going to find the difference, which means we just subtract those two together. So we end up, this is our slope formula right here. Okay, slope formula. And you really need to you need to memorize this. Okay, m equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Say that 5 times fast. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. That's 1 time. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. That's 2 times. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. That's 3 times. And m equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. That's 4 times. And the last time, m equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. That's 5 times. So every day I want you to say this 5 times over so you commit it to memory. Slope formula, that's what it is. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at some different examples and apply this formula. So looking at first example 1, it just says finding slope using slope formula. So we're going to use that formula. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Every time they want you to use a slope formula, I want you to write this formula down in symbols just like this. This is the first thing you're going to do, okay? Then you're going to define your terms. This is my first point, x1, y1. So it says find the slope of the line that contains this point and that point. So this is my first point. This is my second point. Then I just plug in all the values. So y2 is 1 minus y1 is 5 all over x2, which is 8, minus x1, which is 2, and then we just do the math. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. All over 8, take away 2 is 6. And then with the slope, you always have to put this fraction in lowest terms or simplest form. So what goes into both 4 and 6? 2. 2 goes into 4 2 times, 2 goes into 6 3 times. So what we end up with is that our slope, m, remember that's the same thing as the slope, equals negative 2 over 3. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and practice this again with the next example. So we're going to find the slope using the slope formula. So we're going to write that down first. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Okay, then we define our terms. This is our x1, y1, x2, y2. So this is what I did first. This is what I did second, was define terms here and over here. Okay, then you just plug it into the formula. So y2 is negative 2 minus y1 is negative 2. All over x2 is 7 minus x1 is negative 2. Okay, so then we just need to do this math. So we have those two negatives right there. That ends up being a positive. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Over those two negatives end up being positive. 7 plus 2 is 9. 0 over 9 is just 0. So that means our slope equals 0. Do you remember what kind of line has a slope of 0? Right? That means that the slope is 0. That means the rise over the run, right? That's what the slope is. So the rise is 0, which means it doesn't rise. So we're going to be dealing with a horizontal line. Okay, so for the problem, all you have to do is say is m equals 0, but always know that m equals 0. When the slope is 0, that's referring to a horizontal line. All right, so now on to the next examples. Check it out 1B and check it out 1C. I want you to go ahead and try those both on your own. Remember, before you start the problem, first you write down that slope formula, always first, and then second define your variables, and then just go ahead and substitute everything and then solve it from there. Where's my friend? Oh, here's my friend, the pause dragon. Remind you to pause your device, work out the problems. When you get done, press play, and we'll talk about them together. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, let's see how you did. Find the slope containing 2 points. Slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. Define the terms x1, y1, x2, y2, substitute it in. So y2 is here. Negative 4 minus y1 is negative 7 all over x2 is 6 minus x1, which is 5. These two negatives turned into positive. We got negative 4 plus 7, which is 3. All over 6 minus 5, which is 1, which is 3 over 1 is the same thing as 3. So our slope is 3. So if you got that one right, great job. Let's move on to the next one. So new problem. I'm going to go ahead and write that formula with the variables. M equals y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. And this has fractions. But we can do it. We can do it. We're going to be just fine. So write the formula, define the terms. x1, y1, x2, y2. Then we just substitute it in. So y2 is 2/5 minus 2/5 minus, that's y2. y2 minus y1, 7/5 over x2, 1/4 minus x1. So you just do the same thing. Okay, and this looks crazy, but that's all right. We're just going to do this one thing at a time. We're going to simplify the top, then we're going to simplify the bottom. So we are subtracting these fractions. It's super nice because they have a common denominator. So really all we need to do is go 2 minus 7, which is negative 5 over 5, all over 1 take away 3, because there's a common denominator here. So we just simplify that top. 1 take away 3 is negative 2 over 4. All right, that looks great. I can kind of simplify this a little bit further. I know a negative divided by a negative is a positive. I know that 5 divided by 5 is 1. I know that I can simplify 2/4. 2/4, 2 goes into 2. They have a common factor of 2. 2 goes into 2 one time, 2 goes into 4 2 times. So this ends up being 1/2. And then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go old school. This is a complex fraction, and whenever I have complex fractions, I like to go old school with it. So this means 1 divided by 1/2. So I'm going to write 1 divided by 1/2, which is the same thing as 1 times, right? Whenever you're dividing by fractions, that's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, which is 2 over 1, which is just 2, and 1 times 2 is just 2. So there we have it. There is our slope. M equals 2. So if you got that one right, you did a wonderful job, and we'll see you in a little bit for example 2.